I'm Alicia.
And I'm Liam. We both have OCD. And instead of spiraling alone, we decided to turn our symptoms into a podcast. You're welcome.
Here, we overshare real stories, laugh through the anxiety, and talk to actual experts who can explain why your brain keeps asking, what if I accidentally marry my cousin?
Whether your thing is hand washing, mental rituals, or just silently panicking during normal conversations, congrats. You have found your people.
This is a safe place, unless you're an intrusive thought, in which case, get in line, buddy. We're booked.
So grab a weighted blanket, cancel your plans for the 5th time, and let's dive in. This is the OCD Confessional.
And yes, we did check this recording 4 times before uploading it. This week, I had some life-changing news, and I was starting to go down a negative path, but we got some really beautiful reviews that kind of reeled me back into what's important. And I just wanted to say thank you, guys. I wanted to say thank you for tuning into our little show and connecting with us, and building this community has been beautiful. And messages and DMs, like, I'm going to have Liam read it because he got one this morning that he sent to me. If you don't mind, Liam, sharing it. They're so, I guess, reassuring when our downfall creeps in. They're just nice, in a world full of just some really tragic, shitty news. Getting messages like this just, I don't know, bring good news into our life, and I'm grateful for it. And I love that you guys are gaining something from this, and thank you. Yeah.
You really celebrate those. I get this weird.
What?
I love it. But it you know what it does is it triggers my imposter thing. I don't celebrate it in the same way that you do, which is stupid and shitty, and I need to work on that. In fact, I'll bring that to my OCD therapist next week.
Well, wait, I want to dive into that a little bit. Do you feel like these people are doing you a favor, like lying to you in some way?
Anything that challenges my OCD's notion that I'm a piece of shit, I struggle to hear. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's sort of like, let's say you had a affirmation mantra. I'm worthy. I'm, like a Stuart Smalley type thing. For me, I can't do those because they feel so fake, and they challenge my notion that I'm actually shitty and not worth much.
Yeah.
And so when people write
rooted belief that you have, that's probably would you say that's your biggest one right now? The self-doubt?
Probably.
The beliefs.
Yeah.
It's like I have that too. But when I read stuff like that, I can tap into I guess what I'm trying to say is, on the flip side, is I need those. If there's a long period of time where we don't get those, I'm like, are we okay? Is what we're doing okay? I think for me, it's like, okay, I don't have to be perfect at this. I can just keep coming on here being myself, and it's enough for people.
Yeah, I had this same pattern, now that I think about it, when I did TV, where we would get emails and DMs from viewers saying, we love your show, we love you, we love that piece you did, or whatever. And my reaction to it every time was, all right, that was one person. Are there 100 others who hate me and think I suck? Instead of celebrating that there was this person that took the time to reach out to me and say that, it almost made me feel worse.
Oh,
It's so stupid.
No.
It's terrible. But let me read the one that I sent you today, because it is so sweet. And while maybe I can't access the satisfaction this message should give me, and it is so sweet. And I'm hoping that she's listening right now. Hi, Kristina. Our guest just joined us, but I want to finish reading this review. Thank you so much for your podcast. My son is 23 years old and has struggled with anxiety and depression for most of his life. He was only recently diagnosed with OCD, and your podcast has helped us and confirmed a lot of things we questioned. Because of you, we are now working with an OCD specialist and starting ERP. I've learned so much and more useful in supporting my son. Please know your podcast is truly changing and saving lives. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. So that is so
Oh,
sweet. I mean, oh my God, that is amazing.
you're lying. You just confessed, Liam. We all know you're lying, right? Okay, wait, Christine, I'm going to fill you in. So, hi, welcome, by the
Hi.
way. We jumped on a few minutes early just to we kind of brainstorm and connect before we go on the show. And I was talking about how I love getting the reviews and the feedback about the podcast. You know, when people send in, and I know you can relate, beautiful DMs on how maybe a episode resonated with them, or for instance, we got one this today about a woman's son who is really connected with it. And Liam was sharing how he has a hard time with those because Liam.
They challenge my OCD's notion that I actually am a piece of shit and not worthy of that message, not worthy of that love.
That's very relatable. Yeah, it takes a little while before you finally like, okay, I'm gonna take it in and just let it sink.
One of the exposures that I'm doing in therapy is actually saying some of these words of affirmation, and what to most people would just feel like words of affirmation that they would love and that would be reassuring to them. For me, they're triggers.
It feels like lies.
Yeah, I feel like I'm lying when I say I am a good person. I am worthy of this. I'm worthy of that. I don't believe it. And so it ends up being an exposure. And maybe over time, I will learn to sit with the discomfort that that causes and be okay with that and live with the uncertainty of maybe I am a good person, maybe I'm not, and just get back
But
to
you know
making
you
fun.
are.
Well,
But
if
you know you are.
yeah, I want to jump in if I can just for a second, because I think that, with OCD, like we sometimes don't connect that we are also having internal stories about those things, whatever the fears are. And so it's like vulnerabilities we have that we're carrying, our insecurities, and OCD really kind of hits right in those places. And so I don't know, I just think there's a little more usually than that. And I think we got to pause and kind of look at also like, what are some of those other stories that I'm creating in my head about, why I think I could be this horrible person, right? Where is that coming from? Like she just said, right? Like, but you're a good person. It's like, yeah, but then I doubt it so intensely that I have
Yeah.
a hard time believing it. So I dismiss it. I dismiss all this other information I have that's actually real because this other piece is so intense and feels so scary and everything starts to fire on all cylinders that I get, swept into that
Yeah.
place and can't even see anything else.
I'm not going to reassure you that you're a good person, but you're a good person.
That was great.
I just love you, Liam, and everyone else does too. So, um,
By the way, the voice you've been hearing is our guest today on the OCD Confessional. We are joined by Kristina Orlova, an OCD and anxiety specialist, host of the OCD Whisperer podcast, and an IOCDF and ADAA conference presenter who brings something incredibly powerful to this work, both clinical expertise and lived experience. So, Kristina, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Oh,
welcome,
thank you so much for
Christina.
having me, guys.
We love to start the OCD confessional with a confession. Is there anything that you would like to confess today?
Yeah, I have to say I love that. I looked you guys up and I was like, oh, that's a cool little way to do it. I guess one thing I will confess and say, this was before, and thank God it doesn't happen anymore, but I used to carry like an insane amount of guilt because of constantly thinking that I did things wrong. And then, of course, you're human, so you would do some stuff wrong or put your foot in your mouth or it's just something. And then that would, of course, ramp everything up times a million. And so I would start to find really interesting, sneaky ways to text or call or kind of get things in the conversation to basically either check and make sure we're good or kind of say I'm sorry or ask for forgiveness or be like, okay, so we're cool to hang out. So all sorts of little sneaky compulsions were happening to a point where finally some friends later said, girl, I love you, but you were so annoying. And I'm like, oh, you noticed that? They're like, yes. It was like, dude, like, okay, we already talked about this. Can you stop?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I thought I was super sly. And apparently it was very obvious.
Those go under the radar, those compulsions when they're mental like that. And I don't think a lot of people realize that that is OCD. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
know
I
I
didn't know.
didn't.
Absolutely
That
had no clue.
reassurance seeking of just like the constant, am I doing this wrong? And by wrong, give us some examples of like, did it show up for you in social situations? When did you start questioning yourself?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is social and anything relationally related. So like I have
Yeah.
relationship, OCD, like just right, puro, morality. Like that's kind of my combo. So like all of that would come together if, let's say, you could be in a group text and, you know, there's a couple of, main folks that are talking, but then somebody steps in and then let's say I make a comment, and then so then I'm like, oh, wait, oh my God, was that
Yes.
cool? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Because now suddenly nobody's
Oh,
responding to my comment, or I'm
group
getting
texts are the
the heart or the
worst.
like, and I'm like, oh my God. And then are we thinking?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh shit, I should delete it. Okay, wait, she put a little, okay, let me phrase it that way, the way I mean, too much, just too much. And it was like stuff like that, whether it's that or hanging out socially or in a relationship. I mean,
Oh
all over
gosh.
the place.
What
Holy
about when
cow.
someone texts you just K?
Forget it. Forget it.
I'm like, what do you mean?
How about when people respond with sure? Don't sure me.
Oh,
No, it's either yes or no. What do you mean sure? Sure is for me is like I don't want to. I don't have the courage to tell you no because yes is yes. But I go down a deep hole with that one. But yeah, so I had no idea all that was OCD, but I have experienced so much of that.
Oh,
Yes. I still
100%.
do.
Yeah. And then like if you upset somebody or somebody does get upset over something, right? You, of course, don't realize, hey, there could be
You're
other
like, I knew it.
variables. No, it's me. It's all me.
Yep.
I did it. I'm the horrible. Now this is proof in the pudding and I can't handle it. But I don't,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't do those things as much anymore. So, but oh man, it
Yeah.
was really, really bad for a hot minute.
It makes it really hard to gain confidence,
Yeah.
right? Like it makes it very hard to trust yourself and to feel like a confident person when you can in hindsight you can look back and go, I am a confident person, I think. Why do I question so much of everything that I do? Do other people question every single thing that they do? Down to the point, you guys, where I would had people over for dinner and I was questioning my salad bowl. I was like, this I mean, they just like in everything. I'm like, this is so weird. Should I have different like silverware for this? Do people have, and so much of your childhood and the way you were raised combined with OCD can have a huge impact on how you view things. And for me, my parents didn't have friends over a lot, so I didn't have a role model for a lot of that. So I didn't know what I was basing anything off of. I was just like, oh no.
and then your
All
OCD
right.
gets a hold of that uncertainty, and oh boy, off it goes.
Forget it.
Christina, tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up and how OCD first showed up for you.
So I grew up actually born and raised in Ukraine and then came to the States 1990. So that process, as a kid, like I was picked on and like all of that was normal back then, I guess. Not that it's like kids don't get picked on now, but there was a thing how I kind of realized later that that's connected is the whole piece of coming here and trying to fit in and learn a language and get into the school system, all that became such an intense time because like I can't speak. I'm not able to get friends. I don't understand what's happening. So that dynamic stuff at home. And so together created already kind of the perfect storm of that vulnerability and insecurity about me and social dynamics. And so I think these earlier pieces, like, you were saying earlier, like the whatever your upbringing is and all that stuff does matter because it plays into your lens of how you view stuff about the world,
Right.
about yourself, right? Like it forms your biases. And of course, OCD brain, doubts things and not like regular doubts. It doubts things in a very interesting and very specific kind of way. So it'll like, really amazingly selectively handpick some piece and suddenly you'll hyper focus on that and, go round and round. And so I think the earliest memory I ever have of anything remotely starting was like my grandma feeding me after school back in Ukraine. And like she made, it's called borscht, it's a beet soup. And it was hot and she's like blowing on it and then she ate it and then she took the spoon to feed it to me and I freaked out. I was like, no! And I could see it in my eye, like It's as if she might have as well rubbed it on the floor and then, all over open, I don't know, cans of dirt and germ and nastiness. I don't know. But all I know is I'm like, oh, absolutely not. I am not eating out of that spoon. That was like the first earliest something. But then later it was really more, I'd say high school, where I started noticing stuff like I'm trying to hang out, or at this point, like, okay, we're all doing different activities, but I keep that guilt thing and the mental anguish of rethinking, overthinking, relooking, rechecking, and then, but I still didn't put it all together. And it wasn't until like later I was taking like a community college class, and it was abnormal psych. It was what it was called at the time. I know nowadays we're changing languages of everything, but that's what it was. And so we were covering schizophrenia, OCD, and other things. And in the middle of the OCD discussion, the instructor goes, oh, and some people sometimes do this thing, like somebody right now might be staring at the ceiling. And, like in classrooms, it could be like those long rectangles with little dots, kind of holes. And somebody might be looking up at that right now and tracing a corner. And then they're tracing it until it kind of feels good, and then they move on. And I literally stopped right in the middle because that's what I was doing. I'm straight up looking at this going, what? And, and I looked at him like, are you sure about this? And so it caught my attention. And then he's talking about tracing, how you can trace letters. And like I was doing all that stuff. I had no idea that was part of this. So this whole time, like, I don't have this.
He knew. That was his way of telling you, honey.
Oh, man. Seriously. I was like, this can't be. So, like, I listened to that, and even after that, I'm like, nah. Because, of course, you're doubting. So you're like, no, I don't think so. And then, again, time passed, and finally, actually with a friend, we're sitting and talking, and she dove a little more. And she goes, I kind of read this thing. Maybe you should read it. And I looked at it, and I'm like, oh. And then I went to see somebody, and then we're doing the symptom checklist, and there's all the standard stuff, but this person also gave me one for relationship stuff. And I'm like, oh, and like the hair stood up because I'm a holy shit, like every almost item on this thing is yes, like you're in my brain. And so it was kind of that moment of like your head spins and you're like, holy crap, I have this thing. Yeah. And then, I got into specializing in it and all the things, and been doing it for like a decade, and the podcast and all that. So now here we are.
Were you in a romantic relationship at that time?
Well, that was in the friendship. And then in a couple of romantic relationships, it was interesting because things would get activated. Like, oh my gosh, do I have enough feelings here? Is the person, because it can be about you, but it can also be about the person. Because OCD is, amazing like that. Like, let's go for everybody. So, right. It was like, okay, wait a minute. Is this person okay for me? Is it enough? Is it like, because now there's a social comparison, and now there's this whole like, okay, I want to make sure I'm fitting in because there's that context. So everything's now up. And so instead of being in the relationship, I'm in the OCD part of it. And then later things didn't work out. So, that was that. The next one, same thing. Initially I thought it was fine, but then again, all these incessant doubts and constantly ruminating and overly checking everything. Like, okay, are we sitting close enough? Is this enough? Is it enough? Like, is it enough hugs? Is it enough? Okay, I care, I love you. Like, is it enough text? Is it enough connection? Is it enough feeling? I mean, over the top.
Yeah, the relationship becomes about the relationship. I actually remember one of those before, Spence, where I was like, wow, this is really intense. Is it supposed to be like this? I had no idea it was OCD, but it was like the analyzing of everything was just insane.
My partners wouldn't know necessarily because I was one of those that would hide it like crazy. I would sit there and just kind of look. I mean, my heart is like about to fly out of my chest, and my head is on fire, but externally I just sit there. And then unfortunately I'd start drinking more wine or cocktails or something and just try to kind of knock out the noise. Like, now I'm happily married, and like it's a whole different situation. Like, my husband knows. Because when I started to be open about this, I decided to be open while with clients, because a lot of clients kept telling me like, God, it's like you're in my head. How do you know? And I just sit there, feel bad and guilty. Like, should I tell them? I should tell them to them again morally, right? Like, is it right? Is it wrong? Oh, am I keeping it from them? And then finally I just said, screw it. I'm just going to put it out there. So I did it. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do the show, I'm just going to put it out everywhere. And so my husband knows, and when we connected, like it was such a different experience because like the connection was really good and healthy. Like he was super, made me feel really comfortable to just really be myself and share. And so then when suddenly like these little weird pieces would come out, he's like, "It's okay, honey, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, okay, I'm thinking this." Suddenly I become this little baby, you know, but he was like able to kind of hold it, you know. He didn't make me feel bad, and I felt like it was okay, you know, to actually just show all the things.
Having a supportive partner, especially when you know that you have OCD, is everything. You definitely can't be in a relationship hiding OCD. It will never work out.
How old were you when you did finally find out that that's what it was? And then what did your treatment journey look like?
Yeah, so I was in my mid to late 30s. At the time, it was all ERP. Yeah, it was a long journey. It was ERP, and I personally fell in love with imaginal scripts because I had so much of the thought stuff that when things would suddenly kind of hit and I'd get, you know, kind of almost like paralyzed in the moment, I knew like that, okay, what's that worst fear? What's that core, like what's that ultimate thing that I'm getting stuck on? And I'd start to write it, or I'd start to say it, or I'd record it and listen to it. And sure enough, within enough time, suddenly like it releases, you get worried, like, okay, whatever, I'm tired of that thought.
For people who aren't familiar with ERP, there are a couple of different modes, including imaginal scripts. So can you just explain that for someone who might not know what an imaginal is?
Yeah, totally. So imaginal scripts is usually when your triggers are more internal, like internal thoughts, fears. It can even be a certain feeling or something, but usually there's something that in your mind kind of gets stuck. And what we want to do is first understand with that obsession or intrusion, what is the core fear behind it? Because it's almost like your brain is not able to finish having that thought because it's so scary that we feel like I have to do something about it, hence the repetitive behaviors, which are compulsions. So instead of trying to prevent it, we say, let's actually expose ourselves to the fear thought. Let's learn to have it on purpose, which also means we're going to expose and allow ourselves to have that feeling it's going to bring, and then see what happens actually, in reality once we do that. And so we write it a certain way. Usually you write it in first person, present tense, as if it's happening now, and you want to basically pay the price. So when I was first getting trained, like I have a fear of heights, I had to write one about like I'm walking to, 20-story building. Now I'm now going to visit friends on the 18th floor. I'm now walking outside on the balcony. I suddenly hear the balcony. There is something that I hear that it's like something's coming undone. And now I see that the whole thing is coming off the side of the building. I'm now falling 18 stories. I hit the floor and I die. And like when I first did it, oh my God, my anxiety was through the roof. I could see it in my head. Panicky, and then I was told just keep reading it. I'm like, what? Like keep reading it. I'm like, this is weird. Okay. And so I kept reading it, and it took me at that time like 15 minutes maybe or 20 before I finally something changed where I wasn't having all the visuals, body chilled out, and suddenly I'm able to kind of look at this again and go, okay, yes, I understand that could happen, but realistically, like buildings are made to obviously not have that happen, so that I can release it. But that's an imaginal script. So the whole point here is that you write it to face that core fear and pay the price and let your kind of mind finish having that thought on purpose. And now you start to develop a different relationship with this process. Suddenly you learn, having that thought is not the same as like it's happening now. It's like, okay, I can have all thoughts, even bad ones, and I got to give my bad ones a little extra love. And I can have these feelings and hey, they come, they're uncomfortable, but look at that, my body kind of processes and it lets go. And so suddenly you change the whole dynamic with this piece.
Wow, that's the first time I've heard of that. So we can use that in any scenario. Let's say we have social anxiety and we have catastrophic thinking of I'm going to say something really ridiculous in a group full of people I walk myself through that.
I mean, social anxiety is a little different, but yeah, you could. I mean, I don't see why not. Exposure work is really, I think, pretty powerful for so many things in life when you're really being intentional and thoughtful about it. But if it's not OCD, then we don't necessarily have to do response prevention. What we have to do is actually help you either face maybe that fear, like in the social setting, but also we might do a little bit of work around, let's actually correct some of those cognitions, right? Where, like you said, where is it that your thought is really biased? You're being really catastrophic about the outcome, and you're actually not noticing other information that you have, like, oh, people actually enjoy me, or I'm focused on my internal state way too much, and I'm not actually looking at what is happening. So I'm not able to see, like, maybe people are actually smiling, or maybe they're having a neutral face that I'm
I never say
misreading.
people enjoy me. That's actually really interesting. Like, and my husband, sometimes I'll make a comment and he'll go, why would you say that? I'm like, do you think people actually enjoy us? Do you think people actually enjoy having us around?
That's funny.
It's funny to you, but to me, I'm like, I feel like I'm a big pain in the ass. I feel like,
I mean, listen, I have some social
because my
anxiety stuff
negative
too.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a lot of the time I feel like I'm an inconvenience. Like I'm just like this. I think because my mind is so chaotic and you forget that people cannot hear your thoughts. I'm like,
Well,
if you
but
heard
you
my
also
thoughts,
said
you would not
something
want to hear it.
else. You said also
Go
that
ahead.
I have this belief I'm maybe, like people don't like me or don't enjoy me, right? So it's not,
Yeah.
there's more going on here. It's not just a fear. There's a fear, and then there's this kind of faulty belief that we formed, and so we want to say, okay, well, how did you come to that conclusion? How did you form that belief? We have to, it's called reappraisal, but essentially we have to relook at that and say, okay, let's change how we're looking at this. Let's have a little more flexibility in that thought process. And also let's be a little more objective, because I promise you there's more objective truth in that experience
Yeah.
than we're noticing, right?
The tough thing about that, though, Kristina, is that part of what ERP is getting us to do, right, is to accept the uncertainty of whether or not you are fun to be around, right? So if Alicia's worry is, and her obsession is, or the fear is, I am not fun to be around. I'm a pain in the ass because I'm so in my head. People find me boring or too much, whatever it is. She has to learn to live with the uncertainty that that could be true, right? Like one of the things that I have found really helpful in looking at my fears is I find two things to be helpful. One is maybe that's true, maybe it's not, and I have to accept that. And then two, sitting with the distress is progress. Me sitting with this is productive. And that I find a lot of power in that gives me this sense that this fear I'm feeling and the actual sensation of it, learning to live with that is productive. I'm working on it by doing that, as opposed to like trying to change my thought on it and look, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let me
wonder-
clarify for a second, because I mentioned earlier, and I think maybe it got a little skipped. So I think I said that it depends. Like when Alicia said social anxiety, right? That's different than OCD. So that's what I'm responding to. Because I've worked with people that can have OCD, social anxiety, and like a phobia. We're going to have slightly different ways we're going to work with those, because OCD requires one method, which is everything you just said, exactly on point. But social anxiety, we're going to have to pivot a little bit because it presents a little differently. And that's where, you teach people, in the OCD experience, how the intrusiveness of the process, right? It hits different. It has a different function of why you're doing those behaviors than if you're having social anxiety. Social anxiety is a little bit different.
From my personal experience, my anxiety is a result of my OCD. My intrusive thoughts come first, and then that gives me the anxiety, because if I didn't have the negative thought about the social situation, I wouldn't go into it with anxiety. Like, what is causing the social anxiety? For me, it's the catastrophic thoughts and really irrational thoughts that like everyone's going to boo me out of their house.
Yeah, so you might be talking about OCD and social anxiety. That's my point.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yeah,
so, I mean, they both impact social life, right?
Liam just over there laughing. What? People aren't going to boo me out of their house, Liam? If you invite me to your party, are you going to lock me outside?
That would be hilarious. Like, that's the thing, is that the outcome of that, if you actually went to a party and you were so annoying or boring that people literally booed you, you'd have to walk outside, get into your car, and just start laughing. That would be the funniest fucking outcome ever.
That's good.
That those have been real thoughts for me, that something weird like that would happen. But okay, so back to that, because this is interesting. The whole fear of being boring, or maybe you're not fun to be around. Why wouldn't we just choose to believe we are fun to be around? I don't want to sit with the maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I want to lean into the confidence of knowing that I am fun to be around. I'm not going to say, oh, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. No, I am.
From the therapy perspective, that's what we're talking about, is the difference between social anxiety and OCD. Like people often say generalized anxiety, OCD, like the purpose of the behavior, let's just treat it all the same. Sure, but like generalized anxiety, people generally worry, overly worry, excessively worry, ruminate, right? So it can look initially like OCD, but they're not really doing the same repetitive behaviors, the compulsive features that you really see distinctly in OCD. Okay. Social anxiety, and I've had social anxiety and OCD. So like social anxiety, it's different. I'm not having intrusive thoughts and then compulsing. What I am having is, fears of rejection, fears of being disliked, fears of being judged. And for that, I might avoid, I might still dwell and ruminate, sure, but there's still not these compulsive features. But there are a ton of catastrophic fear thoughts, a ton of essentially misreading situations. There's a lot of attention focus is one aspect that's discussed in social anxiety, because our attention is extremely inward. So we're very literally needing to learn to do some attention anchoring and practicing to actually look outward and start to actually pay attention to the room, to the people, to the experience, because that gives us real information. And from that perspective, you are able to update your internal kind of belief and how you view stuff. You are able to say, well, wait a second, I feel like I'm going to be booed and people are going to kick me out. But in fact, when I look at the last, whatever handful of social stuff I've been to, I actually had a good time. People, we talked, we hung out, and nobody kicked me out, and I left whenever I left. Right? That's information. Yeah. And we don't then sit there and doubt it in this obsessional way. We're able to see it. That's why it's a little different how then we're going to approach that, because OCD is really interesting and unique in the way that we start to doubt. I mean, it is a doubting disorder, D for disorder, right? So like the way all of that starts to happen internally just has a whole different way that it works. And the compulsive features are so intense.
Yeah, it's a fine line to distinguish between social anxiety and OCD. I definitely have both. My social anxiety has gotten way better because I've just done so much of it. So I'm pretty confident in those settings now. It was not the case for me, and I avoided. I mean, I would get dressed, you guys, get in the elevator to go to a party and turn around and go back down and get in my pajamas. Oh, yeah. I lost so many friends in my 20s. I was like, nope, not for me. Sorry. And then she'd call and be like, where are you? I'm like, you don't really want me there. You were lying. I'm good. I need to be home and safe. So I'm definitely not that anymore. But I know there are people out there who are in that position feeling like it is just, they would rather stay in bed and they're, but then not. But they really don't want to, right? It's like, it's not a life.
That's why I've started to wonder, because I would define myself generally as an introvert. And I've actually started to wonder if I really am, or if that was purely a function of the OCD, that the OCD made me so in my head and just uncomfortable that I didn't want to also go out into the world and be among other people while I had these thoughts racing through my head. And I wanted to be able to just sit and think and ruminate. And maybe I'm not an introvert. I don't think I'm an extrovert, but maybe I'm something in between. And I've defined myself as an introvert purely because of my experience with OCD.
I mean, that's such a good point, because I used to think I'm extroverted, but then I realized, well, it's just because I was honestly drinking a lot to try to quiet the noise, really. Yeah. And when you're drinking, you don't care. You're like, whatever. And then
everyone's an extrovert when they're drunk.
Right. Yeah. You're like, woo. And then once everything kind of settled, I'm like, my friend actually said, oh, you're an ambivert. I'm like, what the hell is that? She goes, well, you're like a combo of both. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, yeah, she's like, you probably like, you enjoy social settings. I'm like, yes, I do. I get energy from that. She's like, but then like you can also hit pockets where you get tired and you literally need to shut down. I'm like, absolutely, I do. I need it quiet. I need to be just away and not bothered.
Yeah.
But like,
Recharge.
Quick break. We'll be right back. But first, a word from our sponsor.
The same distressing, unwanted thoughts keep playing over and over in your mind. The same rituals keep eating up your time, holding you back from enjoying your life. You've tried talk therapy before and spent session after session diving into those thoughts, trying to understand them, trying to fix them, but somehow they just get worse. And the shame piles on because you think, why isn't this working? What's wrong with me? If this sounds familiar, here's what you need to know. You are not the problem. You're experiencing something that a lot of people with OCD experience. Getting your life back is possible because OCD is highly treatable. It just requires a completely different approach than other mental health conditions. In fact, standard talk therapy often makes OCD worse because it encourages you to analyze those intrusive thoughts or try to replace them with positive ones. But with OCD, the more attention you give the thoughts, the stickier they become. That's where NoCD comes in. NoCD provides virtual therapy designed specifically for OCD. Every single one of their therapists is extensively trained in a type of therapy called ERP, or exposure and response prevention, which is the most effective treatment available for OCD. And they get their training from world-renowned OCD experts, so they truly understand what you're dealing with, even the stuff that feels impossible to say out loud. In live, face-to-face virtual sessions, your NoCD therapist will teach you how to take the power away from intrusive thoughts so you can live the life you want to live. In between sessions, you'll be able to message your therapist anytime, join dozens of live support groups, and continue your progress with other expert-developed therapy tools. NoCD is also covered by insurance for over 138 million Americans, and their team makes it really simple to get started. Visit nocd.com and book a free 15-minute call. That's nocd.com to learn more and talk to someone who can help, because you deserve treatment that actually works for OCD. And now, back to our show. So you've talked about your relationship OCD. We've talked about it here, the social stuff. You also have talked about pure OCD. So for someone who hasn't heard of that, what is that and how have you experienced it?
yeah, I'll be honest. I think most people in the OCD community don't really like that term. All that really means is that you're somebody where, like, if you're sitting with me, you're not going to know that I'm actively compulsing because everything you're doing is in your head. That's just really what we're talking about. So this is where, like, people like myself for a long time, I think, oh, I don't have OCD. I don't do any of those things that people talk about. But really, you're doing stuff inside. So you could be doing a number of things where again, it's like the sense of urgency, emergency. Like, I have to sit and think about this thing 50,000 times over, even though I've already thought about it from every possible angle, but maybe I missed something. So let's go again. Or I got to go and mentally review what I said, how it happened. It's like, well, it's already done. No, but let me review it again, just in case. What if I missed? Or maybe there's something else or a different way. Or you might be, I've had people do, like, if it's religious, they might pray kind of forcefully and repeat a certain prayer and start repeating it in their head. Or maybe you're doing math in your head, or like I was doing tracing. I was tracing letter A, like didn't know that was OCD. Or I would trace corners, or if I'm in the room, I'd start tracing a corner of an object or something, right? So if you didn't know all this stuff, you think I'm just hanging out or I look a little stressed. That's as far as it would go.
You mentioned the prayer stuff. I'm not even religious, and I do the prayer stuff. It's so weird. I've said to Alicia, I don't know to whom I'm praying. I don't really believe in a God, but I'm praying. That's for sure, to whatever will listen. It's
Yep.
really stupid, and I'm working on not doing it anymore.
Well, it's comforting to you. It brings some sort of relief for you.
Yeah, it gives me a sense of control over whatever it is I'm worried about.
Do you notice, like, when you get more stressed that, like, the behaviors or things kind of percolate, like they come up a bit more than not?
Oh, big time. Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize that I had OCD. So I went down the health and wellness space because I learned that is when I felt my best. I did not know I had OCD, and that lowering my stress was also lowering the OCD symptoms.
Yeah.
So yes, when I am stressed, I am like a different person, and not because I'm just irritable. It's because my OCD is magnified. So I didn't know that when I quit drinking, it was also helping my OCD. I just thought, okay, I'm going to be a healthier person. But I quit drinking probably it's almost been 4 years ago now. It was the best thing I ever did for my anxiety. So yes, to answer your question, lowering my stress and developing a routine with good eating habits and exercise, journaling, meditation, all of that has been super helpful.
Yeah, I would definitely say stress and sleep deprivation activate mine.
Yeah, like I remember too, like my mom was sick with cancer. She's passed since, but when she was sick and we were going through earlier kind of phase of treatment, like I was obviously very stressed with her, and thought, okay, I'm gonna just do my workouts or hit the gym, and then lo and behold, OCD sneaked in there, and suddenly, like always, like it loves to do, it's like things became really suddenly fixated, and it's like rigid, and it's like, okay, no, I have to run, and now I have to run faster, and I have to run harder, and I have to get this energy out, and so I can then focus. Okay, now I can't eat an M&M. Okay, it has to be only, and I'm like, what the hell? Okay, calm down, girl. And because I knew what it was, like I was able to step back and notice, and went right after one of the workouts, went right to we're staying in this little hotel, and was like, I'm gonna get those M&Ms, please, and just started eating them. Because I'm like, nope, we're not. Oh yeah, I'm like, we're not doing this OCD, nope, because I'm like, I already know what you're about to do. I already know what this process, nope. And so, yeah, got ahead of that.
Good for you that you were able to trust yourself in that moment, though, because we've talked about this a fair amount on the show, but it bears repeating that OCD robs you of self-trust. So, I'm actively working in ERP right now, and even with the help of a therapist, I'm often wondering, well, how much of this is valid, this fear that I'm having right now, and needs to be addressed, and how much of it is just the OCD, and by addressing it, I'm reinforcing the OCD. It can be a really tortured process because I've had OCD for so long that telling the difference between what's the OCD and what's reality can be really, really tough at times. And I need to sit with it for a bit and really think through, all right, what percentage of this is real?
Yeah,
what's OCD?
The whole trust your gut thing doesn't work for us.
No.
Right? You can trust your gut. What do you mean? What would trust your gut?
Well, but wait, but you can use that as an exposure, right? This is the thing, is that if you're going to be intentional about this stuff, and when you really understand ERP work, and what you're saying, even, you can even include some acceptance commitment therapy in there, where you start to say, okay, I'm going to use my values and take committed action towards those, regardless of the feeling or the fear. Those get to come along for the ride, but I'm going to commit to this because this is important for me, and this is why. Then it starts to change this game, so that you don't have to keep overthinking. You start doing, and the more you do, the more you actively are learning and getting real information, so you can see what's going on. And yeah, gut stuff, I agree. I for the longest time couldn't do it, and I used to go to tarot readers and astrology readers, and I would spin out in this whole other new way. It was wild, right? But then you stop and you say, okay, in again, part of the exposure process and values is okay, let me see. I know what anxiety feels like in my body and when I'm in distress, but I'm not there right now. So if I just take a second, really, what do I feel right now with what is that gut or whatever, thing, and then do it, even though my brain wants to overthink the heck out of it, but I'm doing it because I already decided that's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to be, because that's more important for me. So this is how you can bridge with ERP and acceptance commitment therapy. You can put them together to create a little bit of a better system, if you will. And then it's the act of doing everything, right? It's once you put the reps in, the trust comes, right? Put the reps in, the learning comes. It's like people saying, let me wait to be motivated. I'm like, girl, you're going to be sitting or boy on that couch forever if you wait to be motivated. You got to get up and do the thing and then watch what happens. Motivation quite often comes, or you get a little more inspired. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't think or know about this. It's kind of like that.
I do love ACT as an adjunct to ERP. So could you just explain what that is, Kristina, just generally, and how it works within ERP?
Yeah, I'm actually just right now, funny enough, recorded a 4-part series about this with a colleague. But essentially, the whole kind of model really says that we really want to step back and look at ourselves not as just this one person with this one thing, but kind of self as context, which is realize you're somebody who's able to observe an experience. You're somebody who is like you're watching, like you're the sky, right? You're not the weather. The weather does all sorts of stuff even throughout the day. If it was sunny, suddenly rainy, windy, but you're the sky. You're kind of just observing all the things as they come and go. We're talking about being able to then, if you can observe that stuff, you can be more kind of practice being a little bit more in the moment. And if you do that, then it helps you start to learn to kind of create a little separation between you and your thoughts. So you're not so absorbed in them, like I am my thoughts. No, I'm experiencing thoughts. I'm having thoughts. I'm noticing thoughts. So it helps you to diffuse. And then we're also talking about values and committed action. It's a really kind of important core process as well, where it's like, why on earth would any one of us do something that just feels like, ugh, I don't want to go through that swamp. It's dirty. It's nasty. Like, ew. But hey, if I know what I get on the other side is, I don't know, I get to go see my friends and we get to go have fun. All right, fine. I'll go through the damn swamp. Right. So you kind of use values and take some time to figure that out. What is a value to you? What would that actually look like? How would that be embodied? So that then when you know you're going to be going towards doing something hard that day, you're going to say, well, I'm willing to do it because I'm willing to take that discomfort and I'm willing to take all of that internal experience with me because it's in the service of something much greater, much better. So it becomes a really, I think, cool, powerful way to increase that kind of internal drive and motivation to then do that ERP and also have something more meaningful be a result of that.
What is ICBT? I hear a lot about it. I know that you have incorporated that inference-based CBT. Did I say that right?
Yep. Yeah, so I smile because I really hope one day everybody can just be at peace with the different modalities out there. So ICBT, it's been around, I didn't even know this, but it's been around for like 25 years. Definitely like way less than ERP. I learned it about over the last 3 years, I'd say, is where I've learned this model. And I'll be honest, when I was first learning, I thought, oh yeah, I know this, I got it. I didn't get it. And it took, thank God, I had clients who are open and willing to learn alongside with me. So it's a little clunky, but we kind of did it because I don't know how else you're going to learn something. And so and over time, we kind of, everything kind of made more sense to understand how it sees OCD really differently than the other models we've had so far. And so ICBT, it talks about inferences. Inferences are conclusions, right? So I always think of how can I simplify this and make it as easy as possible to understand what we're talking about. So like ICBT says, look, the issue is not intrusions. People have intrusions, sure, but not all people who have intrusions compulse, right? Not everybody who has intrusions does stuff around them. So it's like, okay, that's not the full problem. The problem is that when you're having that thing, oh my God, what if I'm this horrible person? Well, that's a conclusion you came to. We want to understand, how did you arrive there? This process happens extremely fast in our heads. So ICBT says, let's slow down and look at that because this isn't out of thin air. There's something driving this, whether it's something you read, something you heard, or just because it's the sheer fact it's possible, or maybe one time something happened and now you're taking some piece of that information and applying it in the present moment. But there's some sort of reasoning you have to think that. You have a reason, even though people will say, well, I know it's not logical. Well, you might know that later, but in the moment, it does feel logical to you. It feels like this makes sense. I have evidence, I have information of why I think this thing, why I'm concluding that I might be a bad person. That's what ICBT is after. It says, hey, let's look at that. Let's look at how did you get here? How did you conclude this? Because you're doubting something in a very interesting way, and it's not in a regular, reasonable way. It's in a something called obsessional doubt. And obsessional doubt operates very differently than your everyday doubts. And so what ICBT says is, hey, if we can learn to understand how you reason your way into OCD and start to understand the faulty reasoning process that's being used there, then you can start to understand that all of that reasoning you're applying is in fact not relevant, that you're over relying on something. And really it's that you're disconnecting from reality as you know it, and you're getting absorbed in your imagination. That's really what's going on. And that's what inferential confusion is. That's the name of the treatment or that therapy. It's that in OCD, we confuse what we imagine could be and might be for what actually is. And so in real time, we start to respond to it as if something is happening in this moment when it's not. And so when we do that, we often dismiss other information we actually have. We dismiss what we know. We dismiss our common sense. We dismiss our own self-knowledge about ourselves. Like, I know my intentions about something, right? But OCD doubt will have me dismiss that knowing and say that that's not relevant, even though you know it. It's going to start to doubt things a certain way to conclude that, no, that's not trustworthy information.
Is there a danger with that? And my guess is this is why some people in the OCD space are critical of it, that you're giving OCD oxygen through that process, that by thinking it through and let me go through the exact thought process that led me to this point, as opposed to just exposing yourself to the discomfort and the uncertainty of it, you are reinforcing that process.
Yeah, so that's a great question. When I hear stuff like that, that just tells me somebody hasn't fully understood what ICBT actually is. Because if once you fully understand and know something, you can't unknow it. So let me give you a concrete example. There was an argument I had well, he wasn't my husband at the time, but we had a disagreement. Okay. There was a moment we were not in a good space. My thought process was, basically, we have an argument, which is what's happening in reality, right? But then my OCD brain starts to fill in these gaps of information that I don't know from where, right? Got to ask yourself, where is that coming from? The gaps, right? That is being filled. And here's what was filling in it. Oh my gosh, he's now with another person. He must be somewhere else. That's it. He's no longer into me. Where's all that coming from? Right? What is that? That's what I want to understand. What is that? Because what I started with is we're currently in an argument. That's what I know. That's it, right? The rest, I start to fill from my imagination, right? I'm now, I'm filling in the blanks. I'm filling in the gaps because I don't know something. But notice what's happening there. Instead of saying, okay, I don't know this stuff here, like, which is uncomfortable. Sometimes we really just don't know because you don't have information, right? Like, that is part of life. But we accept that we accept that usually, right? But here's a scenario where I am not accepting that at all because I have a vulnerability around relational and social dynamics and so I'm now filling in and creating this pretty powerful story in my head. I already am seeing images. As a result of that, I'm having now feelings and sensations. And now I'm going, oh my God, this must be. And because I feel it, then therefore that must be. That's proof. You see how it starts to get confusing? And now look at how quickly I'm now treating that as, oh my God, it's happening.
Yeah.
But isn't the potentially, and obviously you know much more than I do about this, we'll say that at the beginning, but isn't the goal potentially to be okay with that, to be okay with the uncertainty of maybe he doesn't love me anymore, as opposed to going through this process, rewinding your thoughts to reassure yourself that it isn't the case?
So let's go further then. And again, I love these questions because let's stick with this example, okay? Because ICBT talks about there's really two main things we're treating is inferential confusion, where we're confusing imagination for reality. And the second thing is the confusion we have about ourself, our feared self versus who we really are, Okay, so there's two big pieces here. With what you're saying, reassurance. First of all, if you listen to what I just said, right, that's not reassurance. That's more getting clarity that I'm filling in the gaps. Okay, so that's part one. Part two then is once I have that clarity and I can come back to my sense of self, now I want to remember, okay, what's actually going on? What do I know about the relationship? Because I do have information, right? I have lived experience with this person, right? I do know him. It's not like I don't know him at all. So it's more pausing for a moment just to say, well, what am I kind of dismissing? It's like, well, I'm dismissing what I know about his character. Like, I know that he loves me. Like, I do know that. So why would I want to not remember that information?
Right.
You see what we're doing? It's not about reassurance at this point. It's about just slowing down to say, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I'm literally, if I'm doing this thing here, what is a huge piece of the conversation that I'm actively not even bringing back in the room?
Yeah, because Liam, you're not going to say with Leah, maybe she doesn't love me. She's your wife. Of course she loves you. So if you're going to make up a story, let's say she's leaving town, which, you've shared with us that you have relationship OCD with things that come up between you guys. You're not going to say, well, maybe she is falling out of love with me. That doesn't fit that is just false, right?
Yeah, no, it is false, but
why would you tell yourself, why would you choose to live with uncertainty in your marriage in something that is concrete instead of just pausing and going, yeah, that's a thought that's sneaking in. I'm not gonna.
Well, if I can jump in for 1 second, though, this is what I want. This is kind of what fundamentally started to challenge my own kind of what I knew before, and now I'm like, oh, okay, wait a second. So I had to pause and really relook at things again, because what we're talking about here is this whole concept of uncertainty, right? Which is fascinating because, again, like everybody else, before I learned ICBT, I was very much in everything that everybody talks about, and this again forced me to start to stretch. And so part of that dynamic is saying, oh, wait a second, I didn't even think or even consider this notion that in other areas of my life, for all intents and purposes, I operate from kind of what we can say functional certainty, like functional knowing. Like I get up in the morning, I know that we have gravity, I'm not going to float. I know if there's sun, it's daytime. I know if I look out and I don't see it's raining, it's all good, but I can see it's chilly, maybe I'll grab a coat. Like those are all things I usually do. It's just kind of, I trust those things, right? I'm trusting what I'm perceiving through my senses. I'm using my common sense, right? I'm not getting absorbed into any place. I'm not sitting saying, oh, well, I don't know. I don't see rain, but maybe there could be precipitation. Okay, let me get something to measure the weather, and then I have to double check. I don't do that, right? I don't do that in all other areas. But I seem to do that in these certain areas where suddenly I engage in this whole other way that I start to reason, where I completely dismiss all these kind of ways that I typically think, and I start to switch into a whole different mode, and I don't even realize it's happening. I'm legitimately thinking that I'm thinking clearly. So what happens here is you suddenly, because you're not going to catch the stuff unless you slow down. You have to slow yourself down to really step back and look at what am I doing? Like, what am I actually, how am I getting to these places? So it's not about reassurance, it's about learning. Just like in ERP, right? When you do these exercises, the point usually is you have to step back and reflect. Okay, what did I observe? What can I get from this? Well, same here, except the focus is we're treating everything as if everything is uncertain, but that's not how we operate in life. I don't know about you, but I don't treat everything as uncertain. I'm not saying all of life isn't. No, I treat life as, look, there's some things I know and I'm kind of trusting until I get new information, and then I adjust my opinion or what I do. If suddenly it starts to rain, okay, cool, I see it. I'm going to grab that umbrella, right? That's how we typically work, all of us. We don't walk around entertaining, maybe I'm secretly a serial killer just because I had this bad thought around a knife, right? Normally people are like, oh yeah, that knife is really sharp. But that's it. They stop there. They don't create they don't go and get absorbed in their imagination with these possibilities that feel like they're now treating them as probabilities, right? Possibilities are possibilities. A million things could be possible right now at this given moment. Are we sitting here and are we ruminating over any of those? You and I, all three of us can be right now hit by, I don't know, a meteorite. Are we sitting here compulsively ruminating? No, we all kind of can laugh it off because we're like, that's not relevant right now. Right? I'm not spending time on that. right? Because I'm trusting. I didn't hear any news about it right now. I don't see it. There's nothing happening to signify I should worry about it. So I'm not going to worry about it. We can all sit here and start to worry about, oh my God, the floor could be flooded right now. It could. It's possible. But you're going to look down on your floor and be like, well, I don't see any water. I know there's no pipes broken, so I'm going to trust that, right? I'm not going to get absorbed in this other thing. And that's what's fascinating is with OCD, when the obsessional doubt process clicks in, the anatomy of that doubt process is so different, but it mimics, that's what's fascinating. It mimics reality just enough that we buy into it every time and we fall right back in. And so once you really see it, and once, like I said, for me, once I really saw it for what it was, I'm like, oh my God, there I go, sorry to say, but making shit up. And that is not what's up. And sometimes I am a little uncomfortable with the situation, but I come back to being connected to myself and saying, well, what do I know? Well, I know right now in an argument, I know I'm feeling anxious and like, oh, I want this resolved and this is killing me. I don't like it, but that's what I know. And until I see him or we talk next, I don't know anything else. So I'm not going to sit here and go any more down where I'm going. And that's literally what I had to write that stuff out because it was hard for me to just do it in my head. And through writing it, like journaling to help myself re-anchor back into here and now and who I know myself to be and what's happening, I could take a breath and go, okay, I acknowledge this is not comfortable, but this is what's happening right now. That's it. That's all I know. So let me stop making shit up and just stick with this. And then, we saw each other, we talked, and then a handful of conversations later, we resolved. It's like, oh, okay, right, okay, we can stop sweating and everything's all right. But, but the reality is we have those moments. That's life, right? So that's the difference. I'm hoping that helps to start to clarify this more because also in that process, I had this whole concept of myself that I'm this person who's unlovable, who's bad. And suddenly, like I said, I started to realize, well, where the heck was that coming from? And I started paying attention to this story I created in my head, this narrative I've been carrying and repeating to myself. And as we all know, if you keep repeating something, you're going to convince yourself and start to believe it. So I started to look, well, where did that come from? Like, well, it came because when I came here, I was picked on in Ukraine. I was picked on here. I had friends that didn't like me. Oh my God, I did put my foot in my mouth and make that mistake. Oh, I did have friends tell me, girl, what the hell? Right? So I'm creating this whole big, whoa, girl, you are horrid. Look at all this stuff. And so what am I not doing then if I'm doing that? I'm not noticing all the other times that, man, you've been awesome. People give you positive feedback. Or how about my intention is if I do mess up, genuinely, I'm the first to be like, I am so sorry. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Let's work it out. Like I'm right. Where's all that information? That got completely dismissed as if that's not relevant when actually that's the most relevant piece.
I just wanted to ask quickly about the OCD Whisperer. You started up this podcast. Tell us a little bit about that and what you've gotten out of the process.
Yeah, so that really came, I owe everything to a couple of clients specifically because after our sessions, there was two folks specifically who would say, God, I wish I could have you in my ear. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They're like, I wish you could have like a podcast or something so I could just like, cause you'll say stuff or throw nuggets and I wish you could be like right there. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cute. And I blew it off. And then again, and then it happened enough. And I'm like, no, okay, I guess. So my first episode ever, I'm still embarrassed about it, but I leave it for exposure. Because it was like, okay, what is OCD? Right? And I was like, okay, well, let me try. So like I got this mic and GarageBand and sat down and just recorded kind of what I would tell a client in session, like basic psychoed. And then that's it. And then I try to listen for a second and I basically had an anxiety attack and put everything away. I was like, hell no. And left it for 4 months.
Oh my gosh. No way.
Oh yeah.
Such a natural.
Oh yeah. I was like, no. Well, this reps, right? You put in the reps. Yeah. So it's now been years. And I basically went and hired somebody to help me learn just basics, at least with GarageBand, how to do some basic editing. And the guy at the end was like, okay, great. Okay, publish now. I'm like, what? He goes, hit publish now. I'm like, what do you mean? Like right now? Like it's going to go live? He goes, yeah. I'm like, what? He goes, now. I'm like, ah. And I pressed it. And that's how the first episode was born. And
the
then I'm
rest
like,
is
well,
history.
shit, now I gotta do the second. And there it went. But now it's been time, and I put it on YouTube for this reason, to get comfortable in front of camera, to get comfortable just with the whole thing, so that now, you get things like, oh, you sound like, look like you're natural. I'm like, that's repetition.
Yeah. That is practice for sure. What's one small piece of hope you want to leave with someone listening who feels stuck right now?
I know you probably hear this all the time, but OCD is something that you can treat and work on. And please don't waste any more time. I mean, through my story, I think through your stories, through so many stories you hear, right? People doubt it, they question it, they don't believe it. I get it. But the sooner you can start, the sooner you can start to get your life back. And I mean, I don't know about you, but who wouldn't want their life back?
I love that. No time like the present. Kristina, where can people find your work, your podcast, all of that?
Yeah, they can go either to my website, coreresults.com, the podcast, everything's there, or look up OCD Whisperer Pod, which is really everywhere. YouTube, I'm on Instagram, all the same handle.
Thank you so much for chatting with us today and spending an hour with me in my living room. It was a pleasure getting to know you. And I know Liam and I are going to return the favor, and you get to ask us all the questions, although I think you pretty much heard all our issues today. Well, some of them.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, trust
There
me.
is
there's
more.
plenty where that came from.
There's more where that came from.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate being able to, share my own stuff and hopefully explain things as simply as I can so that there's a little better clarity around things.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the OCD Confessional. Be sure to follow the show so you get new episodes. You can subscribe to us on YouTube or find us on Instagram and TikTok at the OCD Confessional.